Welcome to Healing the Spirit, a space where we awaken our creativity, deepen our connections, and remember who we are through the lens of astrology, archetypes, and art making. I'm your host, Jonathan Coe. Hello everyone, welcome to October. I can't believe we only have 3 more months left in the year. I am so excited to be sharing some contemplations, reflections, and thoughts about the astrology and about some of the energies that we'll be looking at for this coming month. And before we begin, I want to share with you that doors to Shapeshifting Academy will be closed in a couple days. We'll begin our journey on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. And if you've been wondering if this offering is for you, what I will say to you is I've been connecting with a couple people that I haven't really spoken to before that will be joining this offering. And I've just been completely blown away. The level of brilliance and maturity and just overall badassery that somehow this offering is kind of bringing together is really astonishing to me. So I think this work that we're doing together is going to be really potent. It's going to be really impactful and super fun. Something I will say about it is there are 3 components to Shapeshifting Academy. The first component is going to be a weekly live ritual. So we're going to be meeting for about 2 hours every Thursday, every Jupiter's day. And we're going to do embodiment practices. I'm going to talk about some concepts. We're going to engage in communal discussions. And then we also have the recorded lessons and recorded practices. I just recorded a couple last night and it's really, really exciting. I think some of the things that really want to come through in this offering are really fresh and really unexpected, even for me. I record these audio podcasts all the time, right? And I was still surprised by what wanted to come through for Shapeshifting Academy. So I think it's going to be so juicy. And the third component is we're going to have some office hours where you can come and share, and we'll have a little bit more space and spaciousness to discuss some of the concepts, go deeper into some of the practices. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting 6 weeks. I've also decided that everybody who join will get a one-on-one with me if you would like it. And so, that's included in the price of admission. And I just really can't wait for this journey to begin. Okay, so let's get to October. We have an astrology that feels a little bit fragmented to me. Some of the cosmic signatures that we are looking at for October feel pretty dramatic, and others feel like they hold a potential for blossoming into something more meaningful and more hopeful. So I want to first share with all of you some of the messages that I received from the planets and from my guides. What I heard was that hope is a resource. Prayer is a resource. Communal support is a resource. Encouragement is a resource. Connection is a resource. There's an invitation here to find love and to find life wherever you can, even if it seems like very small or by the standards of the world and by the standards of the systems we live in, insignificant. And to really never give up on that life and that love. There's a message that I heard about focusing on practical acts of resourcing ourselves, resourcing our relationships and the people around us, and resourcing the world at large. Some of the ways to resource ourselves may be to write a note of encouragement as a daily practice amidst challenging moments in your journey. This is a practice that I've been working on, that I've been engaging with in the past few weeks. And this is also something that I'm going to be recommending to everybody who joined Shapeshifting Academy, that we're going to engage on this practice for 6 weeks of starting with a little note of encouragement to ourselves every single day and seeing what happens. What I've noticed for myself in my own experience is that I don't always pay enough attention to what's amazing about the things that I've done in a day. At the end of the day, or sometimes at the beginning of the day, I tend to just be overwhelmed by everything that I've done or everything that I still need to do. But instead, giving ourselves the time and the space to really acknowledge for ourselves all the things we've done, because most of us are doing so much at this point in time. We are living literally in a world that is burning, systems that are falling apart, a world that is becoming more uncertain by the day. And so we're all doing a lot to simply stay alive and to simply stay aware. And so give yourself first and foremost an opportunity to really fill up your cup. And then you can extend this outwards by maybe sending a text to a dear friend with kind words. Maybe simply saying, I am thinking about you, and there was something you said last year that really changed the course of my journey, that really made an impact on me. And letting people know of the ways that they have been a blessing in our lives can be such a powerful act of kindness. We don't always consider it as such, but it really is. You might want to say a prayer to for those who are impacted by oppression, by catastrophe, by grief. You may want to give a resource away to those who need it, especially if you have enough. And enough is such a funny experience, right? Because it is part of the human condition that when we focus our attention on what we want more of, what we desire to have more of, expectations can come in, and it can feel like there's this chasm between what we have and what we want. And for most of us listening to this, there is at least one area of life where we are experiencing not only abundance, but almost an infinite well of resourcing. And it doesn't even have to be money, right? This is why at the beginning, what I'm hearing from the planets and my guides is all these things like hope, like prayer, communal support. These are resources too, right? And you might find that perhaps you are the kind of person who never runs out of interesting podcasts to listen to. This might be something you want to share with your friends. Gather a few of your friends' emails, friends that you know will really love and appreciate hearing from you, and then share it with them with no expectation that they're going to listen to it or that they will respond in any kind of way at all. Simply giving and becoming, embodying the blessing you want to see in the world is a spiritual practice, right? The point is really to open our hearts and to open up that channel of abundance that we always have access to, no matter how little it may seem to your thinking mind. Allow your life to be the offering itself. In sharing your gifts with others, while letting go of any expectations of receiving anything back in return, and instead giving yourself a chance to be that beacon of light, to be a source of illumination, and to embody hope for the web of life, you are already receiving the most powerful blessing. What else can you ask for but to be the embodiment, the antidote, the answer to the prayers that you have for the world that you want to see? There's also an invitation that I received to focus on practical aspects of our day-to-day reality. This, if you are listening to this and you are familiar with astrology, you might think, wow, that really sounds like a Virgo season advice, and it kind of is. We're no longer in Virgo season, but what I'm picking up on is that some of the things that maybe we've started in Virgo season, it's time for us to take a little bit of space to reflect on what we've learned through the act of searching, procuring knowledge, organizing, rearranging reality a little bit, and to allow ourselves to do something practical with that, right? You might find that amidst the coming month's astrology, which are, to me, pretty focused on healing our emotional body and healing our spirit body, there is an invitation to also tend to the body, right? The physical body and the daily reality. You might find that cleaning your house is very supported during October. You might find reorganizing your laptop and the way that you are organizing your digital footprint, that might be really supported and really supportive, because what I'm seeing for October is there's a push or a propensity towards looking at the deep stuff. We are entering Scorpio season, but there are also other planets that are going to be in Scorpio. Venus is already in Scorpio, for example. And as we move through Libra season, giving ourselves a chance to really listen to how we can balance, right, between the deeper aspects, looking at things that are previously unseen to us or not accessible, with that which is very practical, which is right in front of our eyes, like the stack of books that need to be rearranged, can be really, really powerful throughout October. So let's talk about the astrology in a little bit more detail. When we look at the beginning of October, we're immediately greeted by a pretty gnarly annular solar eclipse in Libra. The sun and the moon are going to be in Libra. They're pretty closely conjoined the south node, right? The sun is what we call fallen in Libra, right? And the sun is ruled by an exiled Venus in Scorpio, and that Venus is ruled by a fallen Mars. So this is not pretty, right? I understand that I may sound a little apocalyptic in this moment, but if there's an astrology that can bring up a lot of tender feelings and memories or beliefs of powerlessness, it would be this one. It can be a very confronting astrology if we are too dogged on wanting things to feel good. Many of us, I think especially who traverse in the spiritual realm, can suffer from what I call feel-gooditis, which is we feel like, oh, I need to do all my meditation and exercise all my demons in order for me to feel completely aligned so I can do the thing. This is a myth, right? I'm just gonna break it to you right now. It's okay for us to take steps towards what we want to see happen without feeling good beforehand, right? That's okay. That some things will take time and some things will not feel good when we started doing it. It's okay. On a personal level, Mars and Venus are very corporeal planets. Their influences are very much felt in the physical body and in the emotions. So we might find that with Mars and Venus being in places that are challenging for them, at least for the first half of the month until Venus exits Scorpio into Sagittarius on October 17th, we might feel that a lot of really intense things are coming up. So know that that might be happening. This is not an invitation to bypass them, but rather to be aware that this may be more than just a personal experience for you. This may be something that is also reflecting a kind of cosmic, collective, and communal dance that's also happening. It is incredible astrology if you're working on hidden parts of yourself. This is a very potent time to practice self-honesty, to invite repressed feelings to come out, and to inform you of what you perhaps haven't fully allowed yourself to feel. While I don't hope for anybody to experience themselves being re-traumatized by memories of the past, I do feel that sometimes these repressed memories or these unpleasant feelings may come up because they are ready to be looked at. I recently shared a newsletter where I talked about the experience of how the sign of healing sometimes is that you finally realize, it finally becomes clear to your conscious mind how traumatized you've been. This might be an experience that we have during the start of the month, especially as we are heading towards the end of eclipse season, right? The co-presence of the solar eclipse with the south node, which signifies releasing, emptying out, letting go, points to how there may be a larger process at play here. We're letting go of a larger pattern that we've been holding on to, perhaps to keep ourselves safe or to keep ourselves from seeing aspects of our own truth. Becoming aware of this potential can help us right-size our feelings and our emotions, especially when they're related to feelings of pain and powerlessness. Oftentimes, when pain and powerlessness comes up, they really just want us to witness them. They want us to reassure them that everything's going to be okay, that we are currently in a moment where we can access safety, where we can access resources, and giving ourselves permission to really feel that feeling of powerlessness, that feeling of being uncomfortable, being angry, being scared, that we're not in control, is often the first step to working with this energy. Now, by the end of the month, we're going to look at a very different planetary configurations. On October 31st, the last day of the month, we're looking at the moon approaching the sun, about to create a non-eclipse new moon in Scorpio, which will happen on November 1st. And by this point, the sun is in Scorpio, where it's no longer fallen. Venus will have moved on to Sagittarius, and Mercury will be finishing up its last few degrees in Scorpio. Of course, we still have Jupiter being in Gemini, Saturn being in Pisces, right? That's kind of a mainstay in our lived experience that's coloring the overall vibe that we are experiencing. Mars is also in Cancer, right? We still have that. But the movement of the Sun, Venus, and Mercury throughout the month will create some shifts. And this is why at the beginning, I think the messages that I was receiving is really potent and is really relevant, because the end of the month of October feels to me very exciting, actually. There's an opportunity here, right, to tap into the energy of private investigator meets philosopher or preacher. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I think about the Sun and Mercury being in Scorpio, there's a way in which when Venus is in Scorpio at the beginning of the month, right, it can feel like Venus is not able to access beauty. Venus is having a hard time locating joy and ease, right, in Scorpio, which is Mars's house. But the Sun and Mercury have a very different experience in the underworld swamp of Scorpio. To me, the Sun is very empowered in Scorpio, and Mercury is curious and maybe a little bit quiet, but Mercury is doing a lot of work underneath the surface to really organize some of the hidden subconscious beliefs, some of the old memories that we've been working through for a while. And so there's opportunities with this astrology by the end of the month to access curiosity, to go into deeper explorations. And there's also with Venus in Sagittarius, right? Venus is in Jupiter's house. There's possibility for accessing a little bit of absurdity, right? In the search for truth, which I think can be a really profound experience. There's humor co-present with some of the potential pain. Venus in Sagittarius, to me, can really bring a lot of levity, can bring a lot of curiosity, and can help us connect more deeply with the parts that can access some level of perspective. And so what's also interesting about the start of the month versus the end of the month is that yet again, with Venus going into Sagittarius, there is that T-square that Venus is going to be loosely creating with Saturn and with Jupiter, right? So Venus is in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Gemini, and Saturn will be in Pisces, and they're all in mutable signs. And so again, there's a healthy mix of some planets in mutable signs, kind of doing their unraveling magic, and then the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio, and then Mars in Cancer, right? So yeah, I think what I'm seeing as the arc of this month is that we're going to be moving from a pretty challenging time as we are wrapping up this eclipse season. The eclipse season being in Libra and Aries have really brought up a lot of destruction, but also remembrance of beauty and connection that's available even in the face of destruction, right? Without nullifying it or without minimizing the impact of that destruction. And with the movement of Venus into Sagittarius, there's, I think, more magic to access that may be unconscious to us. With very mutable skies, here's something I've been thinking about, especially as I'm considering Shapeshifting Academy and thinking a lot about mutable signs. Mutable signs really point to the spirit of things, right? So when we think about Sagittarius, Sagittarius is really the spirit of fire, right? When we think about Pisces, Pisces is the spirit of water. When we think about Gemini, Gemini is the spirit of air, right? And when we think about Virgo, we think about the spirit of earth. And so when there are planets or configurations in mutable signs, it is important to remember that our access to the spirit aspect of these elements are always present for us. They're always accessible within us, and all we have to do is remember them. And the access to that spirit component, right, to that spirit dimension, is often not tied to form. That in order for us to access a certain spirit, like let's say if we talk about the spirit of fire, right? Sagittarius being about generosity, being about hope, being about optimism, that isn't something that necessarily is tied to our physical conditions, right? That you may have met people who are moving through some of the most challenging situations imaginable and who are able to really deeply access hope. And you might find people who are in the best conditions ever, who have all their needs met, and yet is somehow still absolutely and utterly miserable, right? So this is something to remember as we are moving through the month, that as we're moving more from the gridlock of Venus being in Scorpio, right? And the eclipse, as we're moving out of that into a more playful, dancing skies, even though some of the pain that we might be experiencing with Mars still being in Cancer, and all this Scorpio planets happening, right? Or the affliction of the sun in Libra, there's, I think, access to a lot of spirit level resourcing that we can really access at any time. And what's great about spirit level resourcing is that often what's really needed is a little bit of a willingness to entertain possibilities that don't seem accessible in the concrete plane, right? In the plane of quote unquote material reality. Okay, I think that's it from me by way of contemplations. I hope this is helpful for you. I encourage you to check out or return to this contemplation throughout the month if you feel called. And yeah, I'd love to hear how this is landing for you. If you'd like to support this podcast and this project, I would love to receive a review or a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or share this contemplation with those that you think will enjoy it so that more people can benefit from it. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful October, and I will see you again soon. Sending you lots of love, and I hope you take care.